All right. Thanks for joining. My name is Matt Madawi, solution architect with Megaport based out of Dallas, Texas. Today, I'm going to be doing a quick review of our overall services, who we are, what kind of products we offer. Then I'm actually going to do a demo of one of our cool products that has some interesting developments. I'm excited to share that with you, and let's go ahead and kick things off. Yeah. Here at Megaport, we're consider ourselves a hyperscaler and network connectivity on demand. Everything is pay for what you use. It's point and click, delivered in as little as 60 seconds. So what we do is connect everybody that you want to connect to, which would be, any of the major cloud providers like AWS, Azure, GCP. It's all, and when we say secure and on demand, it's all through our private backbone. So none of that traverses the internet. We have a private network. In North America, we have a 400 gig backbone. So that helps facilitate all of this connectivity. Right now, we're connecting about 3,000 enterprise customers. We have integrations with over 100 different data center operators. Difference between us and most other cloud service connectors, our partners, is that we connect multiple data center operators. So, like Cyrus One and Equinix, that sort of thing. We also have a marketplace of Megaport customers who offer their services to other Megaport customers, meaning you can connect with them directly through our private network. So that's a cool feature that can enable some additional connectivity. One of the things I like to point out is, when we're talking about what we are, I like to say what we aren't, and we're not last mile. So where you have your branch offices or your headquarters, we don't cover that connectivity. We're strictly in the data center, where we're actually in over 950 data centers now globally. And from there, meaning that middle mile, we can connect you to anywhere else in our network. That's the concept of the Megaport. So you pull down a port, you can use that to connect to anything else, whether it's other ports, whether it's cloud service providers, where or any of our network devices. And we're gonna look at look at that right now. So here's an example of a typical topology. So let's say you're here in Dallas and Cyrus One, and you wanted to do a direct connect to AWS. That's our standard use case. It's very straightforward. Everybody knows about this. Let's also say you were in Atlanta and in Chicago, and you also wanted to connect those. So the Megaport can connect up to 100 different VLANs or VXCs. So you can use the same port to connect to AWS as to Azure. Taking things a step further, as I alluded to earlier, you can also use a Megaport for your data center interconnect. So in this case, we've connected all your data centers together. Now, let's say you also had a situation where you were running your application in AWS and maybe your database in Oracle or in Azure. That's where the next product comes in, which is our Megaport Cloud Router or MCR. So that can transfer data between your clouds without having to hairpin back to your portal, or I'm sorry, your port. Of course, with the flexibility of our platform, you can connect the MCR to a port as well, and there's some interesting use cases around that. Just to round out our portfolio, if you had branch offices and you guys were using an SD-WAN or something like that, we have something called the Megaport Virtual Edge or MVE, which is, you know, uh, allows you to enable your SD-WAN onto the Megaport network. So effectively, you deploy a virtual SD-WAN router on our edge, and then you get compute networking and internet on our platform, and it allows you to connect everything. But going back to the MCR, which is what I wanted to dive into, is we've had some recent developments where right now you're able to deploy MCRs in several different sizes. So when we're talking about sizes, that's the bandwidth. Uh, and right now it's the limit is at 10 gigs. Let me go ahead and take you to our portal to show you exactly what I'm talking about here. See if that comes through. So this is our portal where you interface with all of the Megaport services. Um, when you first log in, you get this cool dashboard, and it has all of our physical points of presence across the globe. As I mentioned, we're in 950 data centers. That's what that looks like. So we're in Asia Pacific. We're actually started out in Brisbane, Australia, North America, and EMEA. But if you click on the services tab here, you can see we don't have anything deployed yet. This is my demo environment. We have our portfolio of products here. There's a port, an MCR, and an MVE. What we're talking about today is going to be the MCR. And we're going to look at Dallas because that's where we are. And as I was mentioning, these are the speeds. So 1, 2.5, 5, and 10. That's current. We have a new development where we're going up as large as 50 and 100 gigs, and that should be available shortly. So that's why I kind of wanted to dive into this. Let's start out, since this is a demo environment, we're just going to start out with a 1 gig, and we're going to call it Megaport Live. Um, we're going to just do a month to month. You set your ASN for BGP because you're setting up you're going to set up BGP peering between two clouds. Here's a summary of what we're ordering. So just a 1 gig MCR and at a month to month. Obviously, if you extend your contract term, the longer you go, the cheaper it gets. So a 36 month is a lot cheaper, but all of our costs are upfront and transparent. There's no guesswork involved. So this will take a few minutes to spin up. While that's going, we can go ahead and start building connections. I'm going to start with AWS. And we'll there's two different types of direct connects, hosted VIF, hosted connect. The main difference is that hosted VIF is a little bit more scalable. You can change the speed, but the max is 5 gigs. Hosted Connect can go up to 10 gigs, and it supports a transit gateway, whereas hosted VIF does not support the transit gateway. I'm just going to do hosted VIF because it's pretty easy to do. And when you select that, you can get your choice of on-ramps. The on-ramps are different from hosted Connect and hosted VIF, just for your reference. But we have this neat feature now where it has the latency, and this is live data, the latency um, to your nearest on-ramp. So it starts with Equinix in Dallas, and the next one out is going to be in Houston. Since we're in Dallas, we're going to on-ramp in Dallas as well. What that does is kind of minimizes the costs. Uh, Megaport Live AWS. And because we're just in a demo environment, I'm going to do 5 megs. And as you can see here, uh, you also get your pricing up front. And just the same like the MCR, if you were to do a longer contract, the cheaper it gets. In this situation, we're just doing Dallas to Dallas, so it's fairly inexpensive. On here, if we were to do a gig, it goes up to $100, on a 36-month term. But like I said, we're just in a demo environment, so I'm doing five just in case I forget this and it keeps running in the background. So here's a summary. We're doing a 1 gig connection from our MCR, which is being hosted in Fort Worth on Center Squared. And we're going to an on-ramp in Dallas. Now, interestingly, for the direct connect, the one thing we need is going to be our AWS account ID. So I'm going to go to my portal and see here. Am I still sharing this? I don't think it is. Oh yeah, it is. Um, so your AWS console, just go up to the upper right. You can get your account ID, copy that. That's the only point of data that you need. The rest can be all added on later. So we're going to click next. This is a summary of everything and your costs, add VXC. Whenever you do that, it just kicks it off to your shopping cart and you have to click order again, just like you would for your Amazon Christmas order, right? So we've kicked that off. We'll go back here. You can see that the service is up with the MCR. You can also change or edit the fields of this. None of that is set in stone, so you have a lot of flexibility there. Uh, Now, just a interesting thing to note, there's a prefix filter list, so you have granular control of what subnets you can allow in and advertise out. And so you would set that up at this level here from the MCR. Very straightforward. You can do a match or a don't match, an accept or a deny. And so you can have multiple different lists and you give them names and you can duplicate lists. So a lot of flexibility there. Going back to the services tab, uh, this is still spinning up. What we're going to do is go back to the Amazon console and virtual interfaces. So that um, the VXC, the virtual cross connect that we kicked off, once that process is through, that will pop up here. We'll just have to accept it. So it's a it's just like any other cloud services, takes a little time, especially when you're in a demo. Always takes longer, right? So while we're waiting on that, let's go ahead and provision an express route. So today we're gonna connect AWS to Azure. And it's as simple as for your MCR, you would just click plus connection. We're going to Azure, which is another cloud, and click on Microsoft Azure. And it's as simple as doing copy and pasting the service key. So I'm going to go into my Amazon portal. Sorry, Azure portal. Click on Express Route, and let's go ahead and create a Express Route real quick. So we use standard resiliency, which is two different virtual cross connects. Our region, because we're in Texas, we're going to be in South Central US. Circuit name is Megaport Live. Sure. Now, our peering, because we're in Dallas, we would also want to try to peer in Dallas as well to minimize our costs. So Dallas. And you click on provider, you type in Megaport. What happened there? it's not really filtering there. Um, from a bandwidth perspective, your typical choices are going to be from 50 to 10. Because we're a demo, we're still going to go for the smallest. And we're going to click review and create. And create. So we kick that off. This is deploying. Let's go back to the AWS portal and see where we are, if that's coming up. And there we go. So Megaport Live AWS, and it's under the virtual interfaces. If you were to do a hosted connect, it would show up under connections. But we're in virtual interfaces. So we just click this connection here and step into that. You click accept here. But real quick, if you look, you can see we're in Dallas. This is going to be the Amazon side ASN for BGP. Yeah, just click accept. Select your direct connect gateway. And so it's already turning up the peering, which is in a pending state. So we got to wait for that to turn available. And we'll be good to go there. And here's your information. So in order to configure your router, you have to do your subnet, you need the ASN, and then it'll generate a BGP key. And we can go ahead and just copy this for our router IP. And also we see that this is green here, and it actually looks like it already configured the interface address. So the peer IP address, let's go back and double check that. 42 and 141. 42, 141. This is the peer. This is our local ASN. So yeah, that's still processing, but that was all done automatically through the API. So let's go back to our express route. Express route is deployed, and we just need the service key. So I'm going back to Megaport portal. I'm gonna go back to my services tab. So, once again, this is the MCR. We have a connection or a direct connect already built to AWS. So we want to add an express route to Azure. We're going to click Cloud and Azure. And so here's where we paste the service key. And so one of the interesting things about express routes is that a single express route requires two different virtual cross connects. And that gives you physical diversity on the Microsoft side. You can still do it on the AWS side. You just have to choose a different on-ramp. But in this case, you have your diversity in red and blue zones. Since our MCR is deployed in the red zone, I'm going to go ahead and select the red on-ramp. And this is where you choose your peering. So most express shots, I would say 90% of what we do, they're all private. So I'm going to click next. We'll give this a name, ML Azure. Rate limit is 50 megs. We're going to do the minimum term since this is just a quick demo. And click next. So this is just a summary. Click add VXC and order. All right, so now we're waiting on that to spin up. I'm gonna go back to my Azure portal, and I'm gonna actually attach. Uh, I'm gonna attach this express route to a VNet. Ah, it will. It won't let you do it until the circuit is provisioned. So it just has to take some time for it to kick off. But you can see here we're also peering in Dallas, and this is a 50 meg, and this is where you have your peering set up. So once again, this is just a limitation on cloud portals. Let's see if our BGP is set up here. So interestingly, we have this looking glass feature here. I'm going to open it up in a new tab. And it's my demo environment. So here you can see we're currently BGP is down for both AWS and Azure. Let's look at what this is. All right, so we have this. So state is down. We need to add peering. Um, I think it'll just take some time for this to. We don't have a BGP key. We already have our routers, our IPs configured. And you can't really edit any of this. So let me see if we refresh this. So that's still cooking. We'll go back here. Okay. So in the Azure portal, we're provisioned now. And let's see if it picked up the peering. Okay. And so you can see here our peering is there. So we're on a private layer. Let's go ahead and build that connection. And it still won't recognize the reason for the connection. If I until you connect this express route to a VNet, it won't actually advertise any prefixes. So it's one of the ways that you can control your connectivity too. But yeah, if we go into our peering, you can see our ASN is 65,000. This is our primary subnet. This is our secondary subnet. And this is our Azure peering VLAN. So going back to the Azure portal, you can see both of these VXCs are green now. We can step through the Azure connection. So you have your interface configured here. Q and Q is enabled if you're curious about that. And we're using that VLAN. So you would, if you needed to change your peering VLAN, you would modify it here. And then likewise, going back to the Azure portal under the peering, you would select that. But effectively, everything's running. So let's see. Still waiting on this to come up. So, let me see if it'll let me provision or, you know, seems like the portal doesn't want to cooperate today. I'm sure this will pop right up once we're done with this. But actually, I'm pretty happy. In a short amount of time, we were able to look at, the background of Megaport. What we do. We looked at what's coming around the bend, which is, for MCRs, we got larger MCRs. We actually provisioned an MCR as well as two different clouds and connected them together. So just a matter of time for the BGP to pop up. But I guess the key thing that you need to understand is in order for the two clouds to talk together, you want to have BGP. And that way you can control what routes are advertised into and out of each cloud. And it also gives you another part or another point that you can connect like on-prem as well. So you can have instead of direct connects to all of your points of presence, you just connect to an MCR, and then that MCR already has that connectivity. The benefit of that is if you're if you were to have an issue with your on-prem, well, I mean, outside of, you know, a better path for routing, if you were to have an issue with your on-prem, your clouds can still talk to each other on the MCR side. But that is it for today. I appreciate everybody for joining. Do we have any questions? Well, looks like you guys are off for the rest of today. So thank you very much. Have a great weekend and a great rest of the month.